So now we're going to take a look at pivot tables. Pivot tables are a way to organize data in many different ways to learn about patterns in the data. And usually we're going to do that in a new sheet, but we need to first tell the program which table or which sheet we're going to work on. So to create a pivot table, we go to Insert and you go to Pivot Tables. And then once you do that, it kind of already selected a range for me. You see how it's blinking lines all the way over here. And I don't know if it's correct, but so to make sure, I'm actually just going to select myself, and I'm going to select the attribute to the first column. Sometimes you don't need to because the program recognizes the first row is the column name, so it doesn't matter. But what I like to do is click on the top left farmost cell, then Control Shift right arrow. Now it goes all the way to the end, to the last one, and then let go, and then Control Shift bottom or arrow down. Now I make sure I selected every single piece of content in this sheet, and it should be identified over here. Choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. Let's definitely do it on a new worksheet and leave this existing worksheet alone. Hit OK. And then it opens up a new worksheet. It doesn't give it a name, but I do see the pivot table fields over here. So that's correct. That's what we want to see. What the pivot table does is structure the content in a certain way so we can manipulate these fields. And what I'm concerned with is to see, usually what's happening is we want to aggregate. We do aggregate analyses in the pivot tables. So let's say I'm going to put the screen name here. Well, you just click the screen name for the fields of interest. And what it already does is identify all the unique screen names. So that's kind of already a useful function itself. Before we had all the tweets, and the tweets, there are many tweets from Lou Metro Health, from Louisville. There's many tweets from Los Angeles Public Health and so on. So the agencies here repeat, but the tweets don't repeat. They're unique tweets from various agencies, public health agencies in 2020. So I go back to my pivot table. Let's even change this now, the name pivot table. See how it's good to name the sheet so we know what we're dealing with because they accumulate. Pivot table sheet 2 was empty, right click, delete. We don't need that. Back to pivot table. Now, where did our pivot table go? So we kind of just click on it. You can always find back again your pivot table, analyze, and if you go here to show the field list and the operations we can do. Okay, so this is one thing. This is nice. We get all the unique names for the screen names. This may be useful to see all the specific agencies that are featured in this data set. But I do want to see something else. In particular, I want to see also something about the favorite count, the likes. And as soon as you hit this here, notice how the screen name went to rows, this area of rows here. And then the favorite count went to this area here, the sigma. Sigma means summation of the values. And I have sum of favorite count. So what it already did automatically was to sum the favorite count of all the posts for each agency. So that's a very useful function as well. So this agency over here had 1865 total from all the tweets combined. This is a sum. Notice the sum operation over here. So that's useful, and maybe we want to make a report on that to see which agency has the most total favorite counts. Now, notice that in this over here, I have this drop-down arrow. And I can use this drop-down arrow to maybe sort by name, sort A to Z. Wait, did that work? Yes, sort A to Z. It was already sorted, A to Z. And of course, the numbers change accordingly because they should, because that's each number here is associated with each agency. Now, I don't want to really sort by alphabetical order. I don't care about the alphabetical order. I care about summing by the tweets to see which one is on the top. Now here I can almost look because there's only 30, but sometimes you're working with 50, 100, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this data actually to our results data. Notice that we also have an additional line here for grand total. I'm going to copy everything for now. So you just select and keep holding with the mouse, select with the left mouse click, keep holding it. I'm going to Control C. I'm not going to Control X this time. I'm just going to copy because I'm going to modify this later. Copy. Going to go to intro and results section. Going to close this up a little bit. Going to go over here, the top left corner where I want to paste the stuff. And I'm going to Control V. Once I Control V, it's going to keep the format of the pivot table. So what I want to do once again is click here on the paste options and change that to values only. Now all that formatting kind of disappears and I can do whatever I want. Now the first thing I want to get rid of this grand total here because this can mess up my table. Notice every item here is an agency, but grand total is not an agency. So I don't really need this right now. And what I'm going to do is select everything the same way, left click and select everything. And I'm going to go to insert table. Now, this is what I was talking about when you create an organized table around your data, and you can do that within a single sheet. I create table and make sure that this is the extent of the table. Yes, you can see the outline here. That's correct. Hit OK. And then it does expect that the first row is the heading column headings. And this is nice. And this, notice this kind of blue and white and color here. This usually means, or green and white color usually means that the data that you're dealing with is structured within this formal table of Excel. And that's really what happened over here too with the whole imported tweet data. So, and this is nice because then I can kind of do some manipulations within this table without modifying all this other content. If I go here and I just right click here, left, and I hit delete, it's going to delete everything in its path. It's going to delete even this table here. So let's do right click, delete. Boom, you see everything in the path of that row got deleted. So that's real bad. Control Z, undo. I don't want to, sometimes I assume sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you do not want to do that. With this table in here, you can modify some things in here without disturbing other things around. So for example, I can now order by the sum of the favorite count. So I click on this drop down and sort smallest to largest. And then now I have a nice, well-sorted table and only everything changed in here. Nothing here got sorted. And I can see the agencies with the most likes are LA Public Health, NYC Health, PLH, whatever, Public Health, and so on. And these are the agencies with least likes. Now, there is one more thing though. Let's remember that each agency can have more tweets than others. So if an agency made a lot of tweets, so let's say LA Public Health and NYC Healthy, they made lots of tweets, naturally, they're probably going to have more likes because there are more opportunities for people to like their tweets. So this measure, while may be useful, could be a little bit biased for the agencies that make many more tweets, many more posts. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my pivot table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change here what's going on with the operation on the values. We're going to keep the screen name because I want to analyze the individual agencies. But I'm going to go to this drop down here. And I'm going to go to value field settings. And then here I'm going to change the operation on my attribute of interest. Instead of sum, I'm going to do average. Now the average is going to give us the average post likes per message. Now this is better because then it kind of shows how different agencies are different in terms of likes per message, not just in total summed up. So this controls for the amount of posts that each agency makes. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this from the pivot table, leave the pivot table here. We can go back to as we need it. I'm going to stretch this a little bit more, maybe change the view a little bit, top left of the table, Control V to paste. Once again, the previous formatting stays. I want to make sure I get rid of all the formatting, just values alone, remove the formatting, adjust the column width over here. Let's get rid of this grand total too. Delete. We can always calculate it later. And select the whole table data and then insert table. My table has headers. Oh yeah, you can kind of make sure if it has headers or not. Okay. And then we also now have the average favorite count for each agency. Now average favorite count per post, right? Because that's the favorite count is the count of the post. I mean, the like of the post. And then we can also go ahead and then sort smallest to largest here, and then see how other agencies fare. Now, maybe you also, these numbers are, there's a lot of decimal points. We don't need all these decimal points. So let's go ahead, decrease decimal. I think like 2 is probably enough, 2 point, that's enough. Can make this a little shorter too. It's like too much space. Now, and we can then increase the size. Now it's starting to get like kind of like a dashboard over here. I got a lot of information. Extra column, right click, left click, delete, don't need this, right click, delete. It's kind of just cosmetic stuff now. So let's take a look at the data a little bit. Now we can see that Salt Lake Health has 68 likes on average per post. So actually, it's really the top liked, in a way, top liked agency in terms of likes per post. Now, and then followed by LA and then KCP, which is kind of similar. LA, they're the same like ones kind of that were here, but Salt Lake kind of does much better when you look at it in terms of average instead of just total, right? Because they have 68 average likes per post. Now remember, the average is a little bit complicated when we have data like this, because it gives priority to the posts that have a lot of data. Probably only a few posts of Salt Lake Health actually have a lot of likes, and most posts have 0 likes. So you can actually create a histogram of the likes for Salt Lake Health itself only and see if it resembles this distribution. And it probably does resemble this distribution. So the average may actually be a little bit misleading in this case. But I think there's plenty of content for you to get started with Microsoft Excel, carrying out some statistical formulas, importing data, histograms, pivot tables, and so on. And I'll see you next time.